have seen it all before. It all builds up inside of your head. It all spills over into such a pretty mess. Hi, sugar cookie. Sugar cookie, cookie. Hi, sugar cookie.
Welcome to this episode of Junk Food on the Road, or Junk Food was on the road.
Yeah, COVID has stopped us from being on the road.
We're not on the road anymore.
That's okay.
Yeah,
We'll be on the road again.
someday.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, but right today we're going to talk about past adventures in
Lots of places. But we're going to talk about Nanaimo bars.
Nanaimo bars.
Ironically, we have never been to Nanaimo. I think you have, though.
I have been to Nanaimo.
I have not been to
I have eaten a Nanaimo bar in Nanaimo.
So let's start there. What was the Nanaimo bar like in Nanaimo?
It was good.
Was it, I don't know, sometimes places invent something, but they don't necessarily master it.
Well, and it's not necessarily, like if you go into a bakery in Nanaimo, it's not guaranteed that they're going to follow the original recipe either. Because, like, that was not the bakery that it was invented in. It was just a bakery that had Nanaimo bars in Nanaimo.
Mm.
So I found that Nanaimo bar, and it was a long, long time ago. But I remember not being overwhelmed with how awesome it was. It was a good Nanaimo bar. But it wasn't sort of like, wow, this is the best Nanaimo bar I've ever had.
Mm.
That really happened more like in Vancouver when you and I had one together. That was an exceptional Nanaimo bar.
I only vaguely remember it.
It was on that Granville Island.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a very, very good Nanaimo bar.
Okay.
But I don't know if this is an embarrassing thing to say, but the what I consider the perfect Nanaimo bar, they actually make it at M&M Meat Shops.
Oh, really?
Yep.
For those that don't know, M&M Meat Shops, because I don't know if it's a Canadian thing or...
I don't know. I've never seen one in the States, but I've never looked for one.
Yeah, M&M Meat Shop is a place that sort of sells frozen meals and frozen sort of meats and fish
and pre-prepared things.
Pre-prepared things. And the thing I love about M&M is they used to sell, or I don't know if they do still do, a peach drink. That was like a powdered peach drink, like a Tang. But it was really good. I really love that. So, but you say their Nanaimo bars were good too.
Their Nanaimo bars are excellent.
We should see if they're still good.
Yeah.
You know.
But you have to buy a gigantic thing of them.
Sure, and frankly, you don't eat that much sweet.
Hardly at all.
I'm actually not a big fan of Nanaimo bars.
Because of the coconut.
Coconut's a bit of a thing.
I, like you, am not a big fan of coconut and things, but because Nanaimo bars are so awesome and so yummy, I can actually get past the coconut for a Nanaimo bar. Okay. It's the only treat I really can't turn down when it's in front of me.
So the reason we're talking about Nanaimo bars is something that I sort of mentioned this, and I think Allison agrees with it, is Nanaimo bars, if you go to a bakery, there's bakeries all over the world that sell Nanaimo bars. And every time we see it, the first thing that goes in my head is there's something Canadian here.
There's a Canadian connection.
There's a Canadian connection. So it's almost like the secret code. Like if Canadians are starting a bakery or a company overseas, they will include Nanaimo bars. And that's like the wink to the rest of Canadians going, I'm a Canadian, support me or whatever. So we've been to a few places, and some, we knew were Canadian, and some we never found out what the connection was, but they sold Nanaimo bars, so we instantly assumed there's got to be a connection there.
Mm-hmm.
So
that said, there's a place in the Byward Market in Ottawa that sells the worst idea of a Nanaimo bar ever.
What's that? This is the nation's capital.
Yes, and terrible, not even a Nanaimo bar. It was basically, it was like 2 pieces of very dense cake surrounding a frosting that was like the crispy, crunchy frosting, like almost I don't know how to call those frostings, the ones that harden and then they're sort of powdery when you eat them.
So like the ones you get on ice cream?
Sweet. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't eat sweet.
Like there's that shell that you get on ice cream.
No, it wasn't
or
like that.
Dairy Queen dip.
It was like an icing that you get on a cake, but it's hardened.
Okay, yeah.
And it's like when you bite into it, it's almost like disintegrates into a powder.
Like
but
the one,
it's
like
almost all sugar.
The flowers are sort of often made of that. Like the roses and stuff, you buy it you can get them at stores, and it's just these rock hard things.
The rock hard icing. So it had like a layer of rock hard icing in the middle, and then 2 pieces of like sort of super dense chocolate, like brownie style cake, and then it was dipped in chocolate, and they called it a Nanaimo bar on a stick, and there was nothing in it that resembled a Nanaimo bar.
For those, I mean, maybe there's people listening who have no idea what a real Nanaimo bar should be. So why don't we describe that before we continue?
Okay. So the Nanaimo bar consists of 3 layers. The bottom layer is a dense chocolate cake made with coconut and nuts. So it's sort of like a super dense brownie, almost. With coconut and nuts, like very, very finely chopped nuts. But it definitely is like mostly chocolate with these coconut and nuts sort of accompanying it.
And what percentage of the cake would that be?
That would be roughly, I would give that 40% of the cake. And then, or maybe 50%. Maybe the bottom half is that.
Okay.
And then the next 40% is a yellow custard and a yellow custard icing, and that varies. Sometimes it's creamier and sometimes it's sugarier. It's totally a choice. And then the top 10% is a layer of hardened melted chocolate. And the taste combination with the 3 of them put together, if you get the ratios right, is nothing like anything else in the world. It's like moist, it's yummy, it's tender, and you get this like explosion of really good complementary flavors.
Okay. So we'll talk about, I mean, some of the places that I remember. I mean, one of them was in Cambodia, Thailand, and Laos.
There wasn't one in Thailand.
Wasn't there?
No.
Okay. So Cambodia and Laos, there's a bakery called
Joma.
And we know that they have Canadian roots. They put Canadian flags everywhere, and we know for a fact that it is Canadian. And they made Nanaimo bars. Mm-hmm. They were.
In their defense, it is extremely hard to make Nanaimo bars in a tropical climate because you don't get the hardening of the chocolate properly. The custard won't set properly, but there's no excuse for the cake.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Like in the type of ingredients you can get, and the weather is a big factor.
Huge.
Towards making these, like cakes are always.
Well, cakes and altitude too are.
Yeah, at a high altitude or low altitude, they're very different beasts. Like we met, I don't know if we probably talked about this when we talked about India, but we met a woman who makes amazing cakes at a high altitude, and in India, and she talked about having to learn how to like adapt recipes specifically for the higher altitudes. So.
But she had always lived at a high altitude, so it was something that came very natural to her to look at a recipe and just make the adjustments in her head.
Yeah.
It was pretty amazing.
So, so the other Nanaimo bar that I remember is one that we did in New Zealand.
I don't remember the New Zealand and Nanaimo. Oh, yes, I do. In Bulls.
In Bulls.
Yeah, that was not really a Nanaimo bar either.
Yeah, it was I think it was icing instead of custard.
Yeah.
I seem to remember that.
And it wasn't Nanaimo bar shaped.
It was long. Yeah. Like a Nanaimo bar should be a square.
Yes. Or, well, I mean, traditionally they're sort of cut into rectangles. But, like, that thing was...
Like a long bar.
Like a long bar, like an O. Henry bar or something.
Yeah. And it wasn't great.
No.
But that...
And it didn't really have the right ratios, and it didn't have quite the right ingredients.
Yeah. I mean, that could have been... I don't know if the ingredients were just availability thing or whether that was a misinterpretation of the recipe.
Yeah.
Because New Zealand has a lot of stuff. Like you wouldn't think custard, chocolate, nuts, and coconut, like in cake, would be a hard thing to get there.
Yeah, but it might be.
It might be.
And it might have been, somebody heard about Nanaimo bars or had a Canadian friend and just tried it on their own.
Or
visited something. I mean, I assumed there was a Canadian connection, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there's a Canadian in the shop that knows how to make Nanaimo bars.
Yeah. Although
I can't even claim to know how to make. My mom can make Nanaimo bars. I have never made them.
Yeah, she probably uses a mix.
That my grandmother made the best lemon meringue pie I'd ever tasted, and she died before I got her recipe. She was from Newfoundland, and so I was talking to somebody from Newfoundland, and I talked about my grandmother's amazing lemon meringue pie, and asked her if is there like a special Newfoundland recipe, and they're like, yeah, we just follow the directions on the back of the sheriff lemon curd box.
So there you go. The other, I mean, you said there was one in Cyprus too that you tried.
Yeah, there was one in Cyprus. It was something that was made sort of especially for a certain event. There was a pop-up coffee shop, a pop-up Canadian coffee shop, and I actually gave them a recipe for Nanaimo bars to put in that and sell them. And while I did not actually ever have time to try one, I was a little busy those few weeks. They looked great. They looked like real Nanaimo bars.
Yeah.
And they were Cypriots who had lived in Canada for quite a long time. I think they had Canadian passports, and so they kind of had an idea.
Mm-hmm.
But they did look good. I just never tried them.
Yeah, surprising. I've never seen you look at a Nanaimo bar and not eat it.
Well, you know what I was doing then, so.
Yeah. But I've tried a few in hotels too. Like, there's been a few things I think I've tried them in hotels, and I'll be honest, unless you give them a very specific recipe and they have the ingredients, it never works. It's a weird thing because I think mentally for a lot of chefs, it's a hard thing to like mentally figure out.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, they want to make it with too much cake or too much custard.
Yeah.
Like, they don't understand that the ratio is that important.
Yeah, the ratio is the key, and like the melted chocolate on top, they never get.
They would put like a chocolate icing or something.
Yeah, it never
it's
works.
Like, no, it's melted hardened chocolate.
I think I've tried one once that had, it's basically chocolate cake with vanilla icing and then a layer of chocolate icing.
Yeah, where was that? I remember that.
I think it was at a hotel somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember we gave a hotel a recipe for a party, and then when we did the pre-tasting for the party, we dropped Nanaimo bars from the menu.
Yeah.
Because they were so bad.
Yeah, they were just like, you're just not getting it. You
Yeah.
just don't understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not the greatest judge, but I at least know what a good one should taste like.
Yeah.
For me, I can't get over the coconut. Like, just
Yeah.
can't get over
That's
it.
the one that I normally, like, I can smell coconut in a cookie like from a mile away.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, get that away from me. But for Nanaimo bars, for some reason, I get over it.
Yeah. I've never made a Nanaimo bar from a mix.
I don't know if you can. Is there a Nanaimo bar mix?
There must be. Like, the other thing too is Nanaimo bars. I mean, you in Canada you do see them in like grocery stores, but it's not as common as you'd think.
Definitely at M&M's, and they make amazing Nanaimo bars.
But like you go to your average grocery store in Canada, and they're not chock full of Nanaimo bars. And maybe in Vancouver. I mean, Canada's a big place, so we're on the other side of the almost.
I've seen them in grocery stores.
Yeah.
I think I've seen them at Costco.
Yeah, I wouldn't surprise me a big slab of Nanaimo bars.
Yeah, like twice the size of the M&M one. But the M&M ones are quite big too. Like, you can't get like one from M&M Market and share it with like two people. You need to do it for a party of like at least a dozen people.
Yeah. I guess you only bake the cake, right? And then the rest is all just cold.
I don't know how to make custard. I think there might be a pot involved in custard.
Well, custard depends on the type of custard. You can do powdered custard, or you can do like egg custard. Egg custard requires cooking, but a powdered custard does not. So.
Way outside of my realm of experience right there.
So is it? I mean, I'm trying to think. I think
They used to sell Nanaimo bars at Tim Hortons.
Did they?
Long time ago.
The Tim Hortons used to have like a lot of different cake things, and now it's like donuts and that's it.
Well, no, they have donuts and muffins and cookies, and do they still have tea biscuits? They used to have tea biscuits.
Yeah, I think so.
But they sort of branched out and started doing soup and sandwiches and stew and stuff, so that probably, reduced their capacity to do some more of the fancy cakes.
Could you do a Nanaimo donut?
I think it's been done.
Nanaimo bar donut.
I think I remember hearing about one.
Because you could, I mean, you have the cream on the inside, like Boston cream could.
You could just substitute custard cream and put it in.
And so then, you need, maybe a chocolate cake donut.
Yeah.
With.
Filled with custard cream.
And then.
Covered in chocolate.
Like even the icing would be an okay substitution.
Wow. It wouldn't be a real Nanaimo bar.
No, but you're going for like a donut feel for a Nanaimo bar. That would be like the ultimate thing.
I feel like I've seen one somewhere.
Might have to do some history.
Yeah.
Tim Hortons listening to this.
We should have probably researched this before we decided to.
Well, I don't think I would have ever researched Tim Hortons and the
Well,
Nanaimo donut.
I don't know if it was Tim Hortons or somewhere else or I mean, I would. My first assumption would be Tim Hortons.
Yeah.
Canada's coffee shop, right?
Yeah.
But it might have been somewhere else.
I wonder if they sell Nanaimo bars, like if you go in BC, if Tim Hortons would sell Nanaimo bars. Like that seems logical.
It does seem logical.
Yeah, I do remember when we were in BC seeing more Nanaimo bars than we at least see in Eastern Canada. Or
But I mean, just about, I won't say just about any bakery, but a large number of bakeries in Canada would have Nanaimo bars.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're easy to make.
I don't know.
Yeah, so I think, yeah.
Is there a mix?
I mean, there's also an argument. Do you think the Nanaimo bar is the official dessert of Canada?
Well, that's a tough one. I don't how could you decide that?
I mean, does it represent Canada? I mean, it was invented in Canada.
Absolutely.
The ingredients aren't very Canadian.
For a while, New York tried to appropriate it a bit and called it a New York bar.
Really?
Yeah.
That's just wrong.
Like a couple of decades ago.
Of course, Americans are trying to take poutine away from us.
Yeah, they are.
And then they keep calling it Putin. And then they're like, well,
But that's the president of Russia.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like it's just wrong. It's like why does it have a French Canadian name if Americans invented it? So
You could say that about half of their cities.
yeah, it's true.
It's like
Detroit.
Yeah. Montpelier, Vermont.
Now we're making fun of Americans. But yeah, I mean, I can't think of a more truly Canadian dessert than a Nanaimo bar, to be honest. Like, there are a lot of good desserts, and donuts are definitely a Canadian thing, like a very popular. But I would not say that donuts like they don't. It's not a Canadian food. It's definitely more international and North American, at least. Like Americans eat as many donuts as Canadians, or at least it appears so.
Yeah, well, I mean, Dunkin' Donuts is
and
super popular.
Like brownies, like ice cream. Like I can't think of anything.
It's uniquely maple something.
Maple syrup, but maple syrup is
that's also that's very regional.
Yeah, and it's also very sort of it's something you put on something else. It's not a dessert in itself.
Yeah, that's true.
So a baked dessert, if I almost think that there's nothing.
Maybe it is I mean, I don't think it would be an official. Maybe we should write a letter and ask for the Nanaimo bar to be declared Canada's official treat.
Dessert.
Official dessert.
Yeah.
Official dessert.
I think people would argue that it's maybe not the official treat, but I think we could go with dessert.
What would be the official treat then?
I don't know. Because I think that's too vague a question.
Like Lowney's cherry blossoms or something?
Something like. I mean, I wrote an article years and years ago arguing that the cherry blossom was the official treat of Canada, but dill pickle chips is if you're going to snack.
But I mean,
foods.
think about other sort of Canadian desserts, like butter tarts. That's uniquely Canadian as well.
That's uniquely Canadian.
Like sugar pie and pecan pie. Well,
sugar,
pecan pie might be.
Sugar pie is a little.
It's Quebecois.
It's very Quebecois. And I mean, not that it's bad or not that it's not Canadian, but it you go to BC and you will not find sugar pie. In fact, you go much further.
But
Eastern
you will
Ontario,
find butter tarts.
You will. Butter tarts is another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. I've never paid attention to butter tarts. I always sort of look for the Nanaimo bar because that's. But butter tarts is definitely something else that maybe I always assumed.
And I actually have seen more Nanaimo bars abroad
than butter tarts.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen butter tarts anywhere except Canada.
Yeah, which is weird. Actually, I always when I was a kid, I always imagined that butter tarts. I thought they were just
a dessert.
like a brownie.
Yeah.
Like everybody knows what a butter tart is, and then you go to the States, you're like, "What's a butter tart?" And it's like the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah, theirs is really good.
What's wrong with it? Unless they have raisins.
Yeah, raisins are terrible.
I like the raisins in them, but Allison does not.
The ones I hate the most are the ones with the sultana raisins because they're the same color as the pie filling, so they're like stealth raisins. You think there's none, and then they get you.
Yeah, sugar pie. I think I like a good sugar. I think a good sugar pie might be better than a butter tart.
Bite your tongue.
But I think there are more bad sugar pies out there than there's more good butter tarts than there is good sugar pies.
I think that the best sugar pie is not quite as good as the worst butter tart.
That's because you like a lot of the pastry, and so butter tarts are generally smaller, so you're more pastry than you are filling.
Yeah, but the filling is so good. It's like I like that. Like I prefer sort of like the jiggly, sort of sugary insides of a butter tart over the sort of creamy sugary insides of a sugar pie.
Interesting. Wow. So like maybe the butter tart is Canada's dessert?
I don't know. I don't even know where it came from.
I don't know either.
Like we know that Nanaimo bars came from Nanaimo, but where did the butter tart come from?
Butter, Ontario.
And why is it called butter? I don't think there's any butter in the ingredients,
I
is
think
there?
there might be. It's all just...
We have to do a part 2 of this episode with like some answers to our questions.
Yeah. Well, in the comments, if I figure out anything, check it out and I'll leave a comment. Or if you know the answer, leave it in the comments.
Leave it in the comments.
If you know, I'd like to know where the first butter tart, I'd go to the place where butter tarts were invented.
Oh, me too.
That'd be so worth it.
Yeah. And I would argue to like, till the cows come home about whether or not there should be raisins in butter tarts.
Yeah.
I accept that there are people who like raisins in butter tarts, but I think that raisinless butter tarts are just as valid butter tarts as raisin-filled butter tarts.
My theory on
Yummy.
here's my theory, and I understand people don't like raisins in butter tarts. I would say that there are butter tarts and there are butter tarts with raisins.
See, but if you go to the grocery store and you see butter tarts,
They may or may not.
more often than not, they will have raisins in
Yeah.
them. And you can try your best. Like, well, I mean, now ingredients are listed, but before ingredients were listed, like had to be listed, you could like look and look and look and look and say, okay, there's no little brown spots like deep down in that butter filling.
The problem is that crust.
But the stealth raisins.
Yeah, and that crust is still too. It's like there's a top layer, and often, particularly if they're machine made,
If you make butter tarts with raisins, do everybody a favor and please use like Thompson raisins, like something black.
And call them butter tarts with
raisins.
Like that's the thing is I think there's butter tarts and raisins are good in butter tarts, but it's like a cereal. It's like Shreddies with raisins.
As a raisin hater, in my experience, probably 70 to 80% of butter tarts have raisins.
Yeah, I don't really even notice it.
Because you're okay with raisins.
Yeah.
I don't mind the taste of raisins so much. I just hate the texture.
It's understandable. Although to me, raisins have two textures. It's sort of the dry and the plump texture.
I hate them both.
Fair enough.
If I want to eat a grape, I'll eat a grape.
Yeah. I think that's good. I think we got it covered.
I guess so. Nanaimo bars.
They are the secret. If you see a Nanaimo bar in a bakery, there's likely a Canadian connection.
There's some Canadian connection.
Yeah.
But if it's made in a tropical climate, it probably doesn't taste very good.
Yeah.
So if you want to try like Nanaimo bars as they were meant to be, come to Canada.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
And if you want a bunch, go to M&M's. Not a sponsor. And if you want a whole bunch, go to Costco. But we can't vouch for the quality.
No, we can't. Yeah, M&M's makes pretty good Nanaimo bars.
Yeah.
Or at least they did the last time I ate them.
Yeah, I haven't gone to an M&M's in ages. They still exist, but I haven't been to one.
Probably in the last millennium. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Okay. Well.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Junk Food on the Road. As always, you can follow us on Twitter @CandyCritic or go to candycritic.org and find links to all of our other social media, including Instagram and Tumblr. You can also go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/candycritic. And you can check out our micro-comic Snack Facts. You can go to candycritic.org/snackfacts and learn about all kinds of other Canadians, or maybe Canadian, there's some Canadian stuff in there, but learn about snack and candy history. So it's kind of fun. Maybe I'll do a future issue.
All builds up inside of your head.
Snack Facts and Nanaimo Bars edition.
It all spills
So,
over into
thanks for listening,
such a
and we'll see you next
pretty
time. Bye.
mess.
Bye.
Hi, sugar cookie. Sugar cookie, cookie. Hi, sugar cookie. Sugar cookie, cookie. Two small girls in a house made of sticks. Jello on the table. Peekaboo, I love you. You make the sunshine. At the picnic. Mustard, ketchup, hides my shame. Feathers, fluffy, fantastic. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Hi, sugar cookie. Sugar cookie, cookie. Hi, sugar cookie. Sugar cookie, cookie. Every day, every night, happy fills my heart. The well flows over the fountain. You're gonna love it. Lucky, not shy. Bob haircut on top. Bubble snowflakes on the Surrey River. Peppy, flower soda pop. Just a minute, young lady. Shiver, splinter, sparkle. Go for it, Eddie. Hi, sugar cookie. Sugar cookie, cookie. 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 What? I just keep saying sugar cookie?
No, do some scat.
Jesus Christ. For God's sake. Ay, yay, yay. Ay, yay, ya pui pa 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 le i. Pupi, pa le pi, pi le pi, pi pi. Le pa, pi pe, pa le pe, pom pom pom. Shan chiki kong, chiki pam pam, piao piao pow pow. No, no, boy, boy, pow. Boom. Sugar cookie, what papa, sugar cookie, oh, sugar cookie, oh, oh, pop, pepe, ah, dum, sugar, gong. That's all you get. Apple pepe for my la, apple pepe for my la, shibby the ball, doody the bed, or dooby the bear, do the bed, or dooby the bear, do the bed, or booby the ball, shoo, ga.